She was halfway through her first sip of wine when the restaurant door swung open and he walked in, holding his mother's hand. The glass froze against Emily's lips. Every head in the candlelit room turned, forks paused mid-air, whispers rippling like a dropped stone in still water. This was their first date. And he'd brought his mom. Emily's stomach flipped. She'd spent 2 hours picking the perfect dress, rehearsing witty lines, imagining the spark that might ignite across the linen tablecloth. Instead, she watched 60-something Margaret, silver bob, floral cardigan, orthopedic shoes, shuffle in on her son's arm, beaming like she'd won the lottery. The waiter's eyebrows shot up so high they nearly vanished into his hairline. Emily forced a smile that felt like cracked porcelain. "Hi," she managed, voice thinner than the stemware. "You must be unexpected." Jake's grin was sheepish but unapologetic. I know. But Mom's visiting from Ohio and she insisted on meeting the girl who's had me smiling at my phone for 3 weeks straight." He pulled out Margaret's chair first, then Emily's, then his own, like this was the most natural sequence in the world. Margaret patted the seat beside her. "Sit here, honey. I want to see your pretty face in the light." Emily sat. The night had barely begun and already it felt like a sitcom pilot nobody asked to watch. If you're already leaning in, wondering how on earth this train wreck turns into the night Emily would never forget, hit that like button now and subscribe with notifications on. Because what happens next will make you laugh, cry, and maybe even call your own mom. Let's dive in. Emily Harper was 28, a graphic designer who believed in color palettes and contingency plans. She'd grown up in a house where feelings were discussed in bullet points and hugs came with expiration dates. Her parents' divorce had been a PowerPoint presentation, clean slides, no tears. So when Jake's dating profile popped up, outdoorsy photos, a bio that quoted Tolkien, and a promise of zero games, just real connection, she'd swiped right with cautious hope. Their texts flew fast, playlists swapped, childhood pets mourned, dreams traded like baseball cards. He'd mentioned his mom exactly once. "She raised me solo after Dad bailed. She's my hero." Emily had pictured a polite video call someday, maybe Christmas. Not this. Margaret wasted no time. "So, Emily, Jacob says you design book covers. That's artistic." She pronounced artistic like it was a rare disease. Jake winced. "Mom, we talked about the interrogation thing." Margaret waved him off. "I'm not interrogating, I'm investing." She leaned closer, perfume clouding the air, lavender and something medicinal. "Tell me, dear, what's your 5-year plan?" Emily's laugh came out strangled. Keep breathing? Maybe finish the novel I've been outlining since college?" She glanced at Jake, pleading with her eyes, "Rescue me." He mouthed sorry and reached for the bread basket like it was a life raft. The waiter returned, notepad poised. Jake ordered for his mom, salmon, no sauce, extra lemon, then looked at Emily. "The risotto's amazing if you're feeling carbs." It was gentle, attentive, the same tone he'd used describing sunsets in their chats. Emily's defenses wobbled. "Risotto sounds perfect," she said, and meant it. Margaret launched into a story about Jake's kindergarten graduation, how he'd worn mismatched shoes and still stolen the show with a speech about recycling. Jake groaned, cheeks flaming, but his hand found Emily's under the table, thumb tracing her knuckles. The touch was warm, steady. A silent translation, "I'm still here. This is still us." By the time appetizers arrived, Emily's panic had downgraded to wary curiosity. Margaret's questions were relentless but never cruel. She wanted to know Emily's favorite childhood book, Matilda, whether she believed in soulmates, jury's out, if she could make decent pie crust, Burns water. Each answer earned a nod or a thoughtful hum. Jake interjected with clarifications, "Mom, she's being modest, her lasagna could resurrect the dead," and suddenly Emily was laughing for real, shoulders loosening, wine glass refilled. Then Margaret's purse buzzed. She fished out an ancient flip phone, squinted, and her face crumpled. It's the home health aide. Mrs. Kowalski next door fell again. Jake was already half out of his chair. We'll pay the bill, Margaret shook her head. No, you two stay. I'll take a cab. But her hands trembled buttoning her cardigan, and Emily saw it, the flicker of fear beneath the bravado. Margaret was 71, arthritic, alone in a city 3 states from home, and her son was her only lifeline. Emily heard herself speak before her brain caught up. I'll drive you. The words hung in the air like a dare. Jake's eyes widened. Margaret blinked. Oh, honey, please, Emily cut in. It's no trouble. My car's 2 blocks away. She didn't know why she offered. Maybe it was the way Jake's shoulders sagged with relief, or the way Margaret's pride cracked just enough to let gratitude leak through. 10 minutes later they were piled into Emily's sensible Honda, Margaret in the front passenger seat clutching her purse like a shield, Jake folded into the back middle so he could lean forward between them. The GPS voice directed them through rain-slick streets toward a modest brick duplex in the suburbs. Margaret filled the silence with directions and apologies. I hate being a burden. Jake worries too much. Jake muttered, occupational hazard. Emily caught his eye in the rearview mirror and smiled. The rain drummed on the roof like impatient fingers. Mrs. Kowalski's porch light glowed amber. The aide, a tired 20-something named Lila, met them at the door. She's okay, just shaken. Refuse the ER again. Margaret bustled inside, cooing in Polish, while Jake and Emily lingered on the welcome mat. The house smelled of menthol and cinnamon. Photos lined the hallway, weddings, baptisms, a younger Margaret with teased hair and a man who must have been Jake's dad before he vanished. Jake rubbed the back of his neck. I swear I didn't plan this. Emily believed him. Your mom's a force. He exhaled. She's terrified of being useless. Dad left when I was 6, and she's spent 25 years proving she doesn't need anyone. Bringing her tonight was her idea, a test. If you could handle her at full throttle, maybe you were worth keeping. Emily's heart did a slow somersault. And if I'd bolted? Jake's grin was crooked. I'd have chased you anyway. Inside, Margaret had Mrs. Kowalski propped on pillows, tea steaming on the nightstand. She waved them in. Come, come. Sit. The bedroom was tiny, wallpaper peeling at the corners, but warm. Mrs. Kowalski, 90 if she was a day, grasped Emily's hand with surprising strength. You're the girl, she rasped. Emily nodded. First date, Margaret announced proudly. Mrs. Kowalski cackled. In my day we brought chaperones. Yours is better, she drives. They stayed an hour. Jake fixed a wobbly bedside lamp with a paperclip. Emily found extra blankets in the linen closet and folded them with hospital corners her own mother had drilled into her. Margaret told stories, the factory where she'd worked double shifts, the community college degree earned 1 night class at a time, the way Jake had read to her every evening until his voice cracked in puberty. Emily listened, piecing together the scaffolding of the man who'd made her laugh until her ribs hurt over text. When Mrs. Kowalski dozed off, they tiptoed out. In the driveway, Margaret hugged Emily so hard her spine cracked. You're good people, she whispered. Don't let my boy mess this up. Jake rolled his eyes but his arm slid around Emily's waist as they walked to the car. The rain had stopped, the air smelled of wet leaves and possibility. Back at the restaurant, their table waited, food cold but candles still flickering. The manager, sensing drama, had comped dessert, tiramisu the size of a hubcap. They ate straight from the platter, forks clinking, trading bites. Jake licked cocoa from his thumb. So, verdict? Emily pretended to consider. Bringing your mom to our first date, bold strategy. 0 stars for subtlety, 5 stars for transparency. He laughed, the sound rich and unguarded. And the company? She leaned in until their foreheads touched. Still deciding. But I'm leaning toward round 2. Margaret had insisted on taking a cab home, give you lovebirds privacy, so it was just them now, city lights smearing across the windshield as Emily drove Jake to his apartment. He lived above a bookstore, naturally. At the door, he hesitated. I know tonight was insane. Emily cut him off with a kiss, soft, certain, tasting of espresso and hope. When they pulled apart, his eyes were wide. So that's a yes to date too? She smiled. Bring your mom. Or don't. Just bring you. 6 months later, Emily stood in the same restaurant, same table, but everything else had shifted. Fairy lights twinkled overhead, a single candle burned in a Chianti bottle. Jake was late. She fidgeted with the napkin, remembering that first night's panic. The door opened. There he was, holding Margaret's hand again. Only this time, Margaret wore a corsage and tears in her eyes. Jake dropped to one knee. The ring was his grandmother's, reset in rose gold. Emily Harper, he said, voice cracking, you turned our weirdest night into my favorite story. Marry us? Margaret squealed, say yes, or I'll haunt you. Emily laughed through tears. Yes. To both of you. The restaurant erupted in applause. Somewhere, a phone camera flashed, future thumbnail for the video Emily would narrate years later to their daughter, who'd roll her eyes and say, Mom, you tell this story at every birthday. But Emily would keep telling it, because some nights deserve to be remembered in full color, every awkward, beautiful, human detail.